Right, skins. That's the new Ragnarok stuff. Bunch of recolors of some popular skins, like Arkham Thanatos recolor. Is it that one? I think that one's a new one. And that one is as well. Not sure how those are going to release. Probably chests or something. I have no idea. I guess this Morrigan skin looks kind of cool. But it also kind of just looks like a recolor. So, yeah, not that amazing for a ranks reward. Not that I should care since I don't even play it. Oh god. Crying, laughing emoji. I bet that's what it is. I don't actually know, I didn't watch the patch notes live or anything, but I bet that's what it is. Ew. No. Alright. Straight on into the Conquest rework. They've completely changed it. Bunch of visual updates. They've increased the map size by 20%, so rotations are going to be a bit longer. Hopefully that means I'll have more warning, so there won't be as many bullshit ganks or anything. There's general reduction in experience and gold from the buff camps. Reduction in base health, base power, base protections, but they get stronger over time. All jungle monsters will now reward an additional 9 XP and 2 gold every 3 minutes. Okay, I don't know what it was to begin with, but okay. Like, there's still not enough in the jungle. Is there an image of the map if you change? No, there isn't. Okay, that's cool. It's not like that would be an important thing to put on here at all or anything. Yeah. Percentage protection reduction on the purple buff. So now the LO game for the supports is going to be even more painful. They're going to be even less tanky in the other game. That's fun. Reduce the movement speed buff. Reduced movement speed from the yellow buff. Interesting. I mean, it did give more movement speed than an entire item. So it was kind of broken. So that means that the jungler is going to be a lot slower around the jungle, because the jungle's bigger, and there are less of a speed boost from the speed buff. Either that or they're going to build movement speed items, but aside from Tahuti or Travelers, which have been changed, I don't know how that's going to work, really. Yeah, this hasn't actually helped a lot, to be honest. Like, they're probably going to be better at solo. The jungler can probably solo the camps better now, but for all the big camps, the buff camps, they're going to want to have someone on their team coming over to pick it up. Anyway, and that's probably going to have to be after finishing a wave, so of course they're going to still split it. The jungler can't rotate as easily, can't move through the jungle as quickly, they can't gank as... that would be. They lose a bit of the element of surprise because the jungle's bigger. They're going to giving the, especially left and right lanes, solo and duo lanes, more time to retreat. I'm not so sure about mids. Yeah, they're going to get less experience and gold from camps. This is something about how the camps split. Alright. Split bonus from 50% to 20%. Oh, and you don't lose all the gold from minis, so basically, when a lane gets an early advantage, and they push their lane opponent under the tower, it's not going to be as much of a problem, because they still get 25% of the gold. That's still a pretty big problem, but they easily get gold from staying there. They have to have a reason to stay and kill the wave, rather than just, oh, my wave's there, it's under the tower, it's dealing with the wave, tower's not taking damage, I'll just go do something else. I'm not going to get any gold for it now. Oh! The respawn time has been reduced as well. And there's an additional 30 seconds on the start time? So the time between loading into the game and the game starting? Oh, it'll be easier to escape through the jungle now. Jungle Fog has returned. Was that removed at the start of Season 3 or something? Because I haven't seen Jungle Fog in the entire time I've played the game. Gold Fury now spawns at 5 minutes. So, getting an early lead in the duo lane, which is honestly a kind of random thing, is no longer so devastating in terms of gold. Base health is increased, but protections are decreased. Probably slightly tankier overall. Actually gains protections over time now. 1 every minute. So at 10 minutes, it's going to have as protections as that, but less health per minute. So overall, it's easier to kill, I guess. It's easier to deal with protections than to deal with health, I guess. I'm not sure. Now this is the weirdest change. I'm sure it was a mid-season one or at the start of Season 4, but they tried to make the Goal Fury worth more late game, and now they just made it worth less late game. So now it's even more of an early game objective. That's not going to stop casual players from going and taking the Goal Fury instead of a Tower or a Phoenix, which, by the way, gives more gold. I'm pretty sure it gives more gold. Can't remember. You get like 100 gold for taking. It's 100 gold to each player, so that's 500 gold to the team for taking a tower or something. I think it's the Gold Fury is only 300 near the start of the game at least. I really don't remember. I'd have to look that up. So this means that casual players are going to have an even harder time trying to end the game because they're going to take the Gold Fury and get a pathetic amount of gold instead of going and actually taking a tower, progressing in the course of the game, and getting more gold. So securing their lead even more. Okay, Pyromancer replaces the Portal Demon. Instead of teleporting to a predictable location that can be countered quite easily, or just to a location that can lead to quick Fire Giant kills, or quick recovery after a Fire Giant kill or whatever, instead you get to go anywhere on the map. You get Swiftwing, basically. You get Swiftwing's passive for 90 seconds. Again, gains more protections, but less health, and actually increases in how much XP and gold you receive from killing it. So there is some point to killing this outside of the passive buff on it, the effect it gives to the fountain, oddly enough. It's a buff to the fountain, not to the players. Fire Giant. A little bit less health, a little bit less power, a little bit less protections near the start earlier on, so early Fire Giant kills are going to be more likely now. Gains more health, gains power over time, and gains more gold over time as well. I believe it now gains more gold. So the Fire Giant now gains as much gold over time as the Gold Fury does, and the Pyromancer gains as much XP over time as the Gold Fury does. I don't know whether the Fire Giant does, because it's not said here. So the Enhanced Fire Giant spawns at the 25-minute mark, and basically it does an even better job of what the Fire Giant buff is supposed to do. The Fire Giant buff is supposed to be something you go and take before immediately going and taking towers and structures, positively going and ending the game. It gives 100 magical power, 65 physical power, and it's 4% of the maximum health, and 2% max mana every 5 seconds. These remind me of the Stone of Gaia and the mana buff, rebuff. I'm pretty sure Stone of Gaia is as well. I'm not sure. But 20% extra damage against towers and phoenixes is an interesting change. Interesting addition. It certainly helps do what you're supposed to do in the first place. You generally don't go and take the Fire Giant to then go into a team fight. You normally go into a team fight in order to decide who gets the Fire Giant. If Fire Giant is an obstacle you fight over, because it's a neutral obstacle, rather than fighting underneath the enemy's tower, which you then go and do once you get the Fire Giant. So now you have that bit of advantage to make it an even fight. Or sometimes even an uneven fight where you have the advantage when you're pushing a tower when the enemy team's there. But that's normally because you've killed a few people trying to take the Fire Giant, or stopping them from from stealing the Fire Giant, which is always a thing that can happen. Minions! They want minions to actually stay in the lane for longer. So, 40% less damage to gods. Gucci isn't going to die to wave when he tries to clear it anymore. I like that change. A lot of people don't like that change. But there is a downside to it, because it means early aggression ignoring the minion wave. Normally in solo or duo lane, but sometimes from the jungler in the mid lane, early aggression onto the enemy gods early on in the game is actually going to be a thing that you can do now. Minions won't just 100 to 0 you, they'll 100 to 60 you. 100 to 40. It's 40% less damage. Minions will now prioritize structures over literally anything else. Except gods. It doesn't mention gods there, so I guess it's going to prioritize gods over structures. That's always an annoying thing. And the more annoying thing is when you're in mid or duo, and you manage to clear the wave first, and you push like a healthy wave to the enemy tower, and then they just press one button and the whole wave dies without even doing any damage to the tower because it was targeting the god. That can't happen anymore because the minions shouldn't die so quickly. Wait, this is a tiny increase. It's a tiny increase. Tiny. No, this only affects like the first 5 minutes. So you're going to end up with minions getting left on pretty much 1 HP until maybe 10 minutes in, then it's just going to be as it was before. This is a tiny change. Okay. Tower structures do more damage and take more damage. Trying to take a structure or trying to dive one isn't going to be so much of a long thing anymore. It's going to be something you'll be able to take the towers pretty quickly, especially earlier on when you don't have as much pen. But ADCs don't care about that anyway because they don't build much pen that affects towers. They build executioner, unless they're an arsehole that builds Titan's Bane and it's like Kin's Titan's Bane and executioner, just so that the tank can't be a tank anymore, because that's some well-designed gameplay there. Anyway, and if they're good at the game, in terms of gameplay, they can probably still outbox the other enemy ADC by dodging like literally just one auto, because they're still going to kill people in like 3 hits. Actually, no, without crits, it's not going to be 3 hits, it's going to be more like 4. But tanks, the warrior, the guardian, I suppose the solo laner, the support, because it doesn't have to be a warrior and a guardian. They're going to take a lot of damage from ADCs if they do that. I'm going way off in a tangent. Conquest tutorial has finally been updated, and as it always was, it's intended for people who've literally just first played the game. They first open the game and they get that tutorial. I don't know why they need to clarify that. I guess people were trying to use that as a way to learn the mode instead of going and looking up fucking supplementary materials. Which are... it's one of the things I hate about MOBAs. Like, to be the best at playing the game, you have to go and not play the game. That's bad game design to me. Technically, you don't have to go and not play the game. You could play the game to learn all these meta things, like practice all the different goals with different builds, try and see what works best. But there's just like 92 gods now or something, and there's enough different builds that you'd be playing hundreds of games. Like if you were trying to do that by yourself, it would take you until the end of the season to actually have the meta figured out. It's just not viable. If you're trying to play competitively, you have to go and not play the game. You have to go watch pros play the game. You have to go watch high-ranked players talk about the game. Kill bounty change. Assists now provide a bonus gold to the players based on their level difference from the kill target, rather than the killer's level. So basically, supports don't screw as much. Because when a support gets behind, they always get behind. Like, you normally find the support like 1 or 2 levels behind the rest of the team. And normally a fair bit of gold behind as well. But yeah. So when they got a fairly hyper carry and they're feeding them kills, they won't be left behind as much. Because instead of getting a measly amount of gold because their carry is probably a level or 2 above the people they're killing, they're going to get like a much larger amount of gold because they're actually below the level of people who are actually getting killed. So yeah, I like that change. It's a good change. It also means that when a carry gets their kill stolen, they're going to get even more pissed off because they're going to get less gold than they would have before this change. But hey, at least there's more incentives for supports to feed kills. Aside from, being how the game's supposed to work. Though, with, most of the supports being able to deal damage. Apart from Ganesh. The only way to kill someone with Ganesh is to pop your ult, use your 3 to stun them on the wall of an ult when they try and go through it, which a lot of people won't even care about if it's just a Ganesh there. They're just going to stand in the ult and just smack the Ganesh. Because, what else has the Ganesh got? He presses 1. Takes off 300 HP or something. It's a big chunk of damage from support, yeah, but it's nowhere near to solo, and there's no other ability, no other sources of damage. So, anyway, I'm digressing again. Cerberus, could easily do that though. Anyway, new Fantasy Point store? Okay. Players will be able to spend their own fantasy points to unlock skins directly. Okay, I'm liking that part. Each patch, a few of these skins will be replaced with new skins previously only unlockable through chests. So, basically, Hi-Rez heard all this loot box controversy, I don't care, and decided, let's implement a change where there's an option to play the game or spend money to outright buy things instead of rolling chests. Wait. Okay, because whatever. So the skins are all in rotation, which I'm not too worried about. Putting things in chests on a limited time is a lot more scummy than putting something on sale for a limited time. But putting something in a chest for a limited time means you want people to just spend an indeterminate amount of money to try and get something. And then putting pressure on them on the time limit to keep on spending that indeterminate amount of money. Whereas giving someone something to buy for a fixed price, I think that's fairer. I mean, ultimately you're still putting a limited amount of time on buying something in the game, but I don't know. Actually buying what you're spending your money on, instead of getting a whole bunch of other stuff that aren't in limited time only, I think that's fairer. Points spent in the Fantasy Point store will not reduce your current season ticket progress. See, when I first started this, I thought it was going to be for those people who finished the entire season ticket thing and have extra points that gives them something to spend on. But no, it's both. You still have use for getting fantasy points outside of season ticket progress, and you can spend all the stuff you've earned. That's nice. Because the fantasy points, you earn them just for playing the game. And fantasy points are also what you tip people in-game. So, playing with literally just one friend means that you can double the amount of fantasy points that you both get, and they actually have a lot more value now, because you can actually use them to buy things in game. It's not, they have a limited time thing as well, by playing the game with friends. Because a misconception a lot of people seem to make when they just never use that tipping system is you don't lose any of your own points by using it. You just increase the total number of points in the economy. It's just free money. So yeah. Play with friends. Tip each other fantasy points. Go and buy some, presumably exclusive or limited skins. Because they're previously only unlockable through chests. I bet they're going to put some pretty good skins in there. I don't know, maybe there's recolors in here. Actually, I think those recolors might be season ticket rewards. Because that's what happened last year. I don't remember. First pick TP bonus. So the top of the stack in ranked is always the person with the highest elo. That's the person that gets first pick. That's the person who gets choose the bans. All the rest of it isn't in elo order. It's just random. But the person at the top, I think it applies outside of ranked as well, but the person at the top of the stack is who gets first picked in ranked. It's always the person with the highest elo. So, the person with the highest elo in a match gets an extra 3 TP if they win. Which means jack shit. No, it means it'd be a bit easier for people who have a higher elo than people in the same rank as them. Make it a bit easier for them to climb up out of that rank into a rank where there actually be people who have similar elo. Assuming they actually still win games. I don't think that plus 3 TP should be exclusive to that team winning. I think it'd be like plus 3 TP for the team winning, and maybe plus 1 if the team loses. If you're going to give people a bonus TP for having a higher elo than everyone else in their rank, at least make it so that you don't have the usual bullshit of high elo player getting stuck in like bronze because they get put with a bunch of retards who don't know how to play the game and they lose all the time. They get stuck in the elo hell, as you might call it. I don't know. Soft resets. Ranked will undergo a soft reset with the launch of Season 5. Players will need to play 10 qualifying matches before being placed, based on their Season 4 performance and the results of their 10 qualifying matches. Okay, isn't that what they do every season? Gold leaderboards. Adjust the formula to better account for the amount of games played and the average player's skill. Gold leaderboards. I don't know why that's gold. So, I guess they're trying to make it so that it's not just the people who've played the god the most who get on the leaderboards. It's actually people who do well are actually best with the gods. Not the people who have like 42 stars on low-key just being at the top of the list because, I mean, they've got 42 stars on low-key. What do you expect? All starter items have been removed from the game. Most of them I didn't buy. The only ones I care about, really, are Lono's Mask and Rang's Mask. And kind of Watcher's Gift, but mostly Lono's and Rang's. Rang's because of the hilarious scene roll. It should never have been added to the game. They're trying to reduce Snowball, and then they give a cheap stacking starter item that punishes players for having a bad early game, and rewards players for having a good early game. Punishing by being a waste of 500 gold, because its base stats are not very good compared to what else you could get for 500 gold. Like, the pots you could get, the contributing to another item, even getting like a low nose. I don't know. I was sad to see low nose and Watcher's Gift go, because that was part of my gold rush start, because I was basically buying them every game. Watches and Lonos. Unless I'm planning to actually be the one who's clearing the wave, I would get Watches and Lonos. Because as long as I'm not the one killing the minions, it's just free gold. And the amount of gold you get from them is more than the gold you get from killing wave. And if you add in Traveler's Shoes or Teleria Boots, which I was also buying most games, there are a few games where I bought it when I shouldn't, a few games where I realised I shouldn't buy it, actually did. But most of the time I was just buying them, because 30 free gold up to 5 times every 90 seconds is pretty good, if I do say so myself. So I was using those items to just get an insane gold lead without actually doing a whole lot, and then using that insane gold lead to be able to do a lot. It mostly worked on gods that didn't need items as much to do damage, so ADCs, mages, I would basically never buy on them. Assassins, warriors, and guardians, mostly warriors and guardians. High ability damage, high base ability damage even. I don't care about buying the items. Watcher's Gift and Lonos gives me a bit of tankiness. Travelers, Telerias, useful on assassins, mobility. It's useful on everything, the mobility, if you ask me. On ADCs and mages, it's shit start. It's a shit start. You want that early game damage, otherwise you can't do anything. You can't even clear wave, and you can't get that gold. Especially when people expect you to clear the wave. But when you're playing a guardian or a warrior, or even an assassin, people don't expect you to clear wave. You're not supposed to clear wave. You just get free gold from it. So yeah, those are removed from the game now. But I'll have to actually calculate whether the amount of gold that I get from that start averages out to being less or more than the new system that's replacing it. It averages out to being less, but it has a potential to be a lot more, mostly because of the unreliability or rather unpredictability of Solera's and Traveler's shoes, because there's no in-game way to track when it's up for each god, when you can get that 30 gold. But getting 30 gold for free every 90 seconds or so on each of the enemy gods, if you just spam poke them, you can farm up a lot of gold from it. And that was my strategy. Which is a pretty good strategy in the early game. Anyway. Especially if you don't have a lot of damage. So, the way you optimize those items, and the way you optimize your damage based around those items, goes hand in hand. You optimize the damage by poking people out as much as possible, before trying to kill them. And you optimize the gold by poking people out as often as possible. So, poke, and you get the kills. So yeah, it works. Doesn't work so well on gods like Ao Kuang even, because first of all he needs item damage, and second of all he has no poke. Not really. I mean, I guess he's got his 2, but landing his 2 at range is a bit unreliable, to be honest. It only hits one god, and then I don't like it, especially since it can be blocked by minions. That's the main reason I don't like it. Okay, so blessings. You get 1 blessing per match. That's already kind of annoyed me, because I liked the fact that you could, if you wanted, just buy every starter item you could at the start of the match. It was a bit ridiculous, and no one should ever do it, but it was fun. It was fun that you could do that, and this is restricting the game down. But that's partly because these things cost 700 gold. So they're cheaper than starter items by 100 gold, so that's 2 extra pods. Potentially. Depending on what you're going with it. But if you were trying to go for a Season 4 start with the starter item, you get an extra 2 pots. Potentially a tier of an item, a different starting item, to go with it, but it's mostly just pots. Instead of, if you just went for the starter item and probably like tier 1 boots and pots, like in solo lane start, well, I actually have to get back to that later, because they've changed the pricing of boots. Now it's for 500 gold for the tier 1 boots, so you actually get less pots than that. But every other lane you get 2 extra pots. But if you could buy more than 1, you'd be able to buy 2 at the start, which would probably have been broken, because some of these are actually very broken. So let's start off with the Jungler's one. Assassin's Blessing. Okay, this is actually kind of retarded. Like, they explain up here that this is just to help, new players, better understand what the roles of the game are. And it's still open for more experienced players to know, to be able to run different gods. You'd use these, activities in different roles if they want to. But they've named this after the classes, not after the roles. This isn't Jungler's Blessing, it's Assassin's Blessing. I mean, I guess you can't expect a very new player to know solo mid jungle support ADC. But, this says to a new player that you can't buy this on something that's not an assassin. You shouldn't buy it on something that's not an assassin. Anyway, so 35% bonus damage to jungle monsters. This is instead of gaining a flat bonus damage of I think it's like 15 true damage. It was like 10 plus 1 per level. I think it might be the latter. True damage onto jungle monsters. Instead, you get 35% bonus damage. Probably works out to be about the same overall. I'm not sure. I never really played around with getting Bumba's Mask in jungle. I never really did jungle much. I don't play Conquest much. Anyway. That's 7% health. Now, this is the interesting part. Instead of getting health and I think mana as well, but back based on the jungle monster that you kill, you gain health back based on your own health. At least that's what I'm reading here. So you get 7% of your health on killing a jungle monster and 20 mana. So it's nowhere near enough to recover the amount of mana you use on an ability to clear the jungle camp, or more than one if it's early game and you haven't got a particularly good early game. So you can still run out of mana very quickly. And because it's only on killing it, not on it being killed near you, like Bumba's Mask was changed to, they're really trying to discourage the sharing XP, because if someone else accidentally gets the final hit on it, you lose out on the 7% of your health being healed. Which is half of a Medal of Renewal? I think that's 15%. Yeah, it's a significant heal, but it's not as good as Bumba's Mask was. Because Bumba's Mask used to be able to, like, heal you up for like a third of your HP off of killing the jungle boss. Killing the jungle boss being like the ones that hold jungle buffs, not those two little small ones. But that might be made up for by the larger health restore on the two smaller ones. Which I suppose gives you an incentive to wait before killing them, if you're on full health. So focus your attacks on the middle one, and then kill two small ones, because the damage you're taking from them isn't as much as the extra heal that you'd be overcapping on with from it. I don't know, it's a weird change. Jungle. It tells you, roll quest, jungle, because all these have a stacking passive that tell you what your role is. These namings are expected for like players who've just opened up the game. It's not a bad thing. Smite probably has it is the nicest out of all the big MOBAs on new players. Like League of Legends puts you in a basic tutorial that shows you the basic controls that you probably could have worked out on your own anyway. Because it's like, I mean the very basic stuff, like how to move, how to level up abilities, how to buy items, how to cast abilities. Wards are a thing. That's it. That's basically all it teaches you. It expects you to just go out and stop playing the game for 100 hours and learn everything else. I'm only half joking there, but seriously, there's a massive learning wall in League of Legends. I don't know about Dota or any other MOBAs, but there is in League of Legends, and I'm assuming that would be the same for a lot of the other ones, because they all seem to go after League of Legends. But Smite does a much better job of it, I think. Especially since the map's a bit less complicated. They probably should teach players that you should finish building one item before going on to the next one, because even if the basic stats on them might, on a tier 3 might be worth double the tier 2, getting 2 tier 2s being about the same price as getting a tier 3, you usually get an additional passive on it. And pretty much every tier 3 item, I don't think there are any anymore that just raw stats, but you get a passive on it, and that's what you want to finish building it for. That's what it's like worth selling a starter item early to get sooner. It's worth staying in base to finish an item, because those passive effects are part of the reason why you build the item. Like, going into a Gem of ISO, but then leaving it at the tier 2 and going into Spear of Desolation instead, you're missing out on that slow. And that's a massive deal, because that's the main reason why you're buying that item, that the health and the power aren't a whole lot. Okay, the health is fair. You get like 100 health and like 45 power. It's 150 health and 45 power. It's half of the stats on the tier 3. But the tier 3 has a slow in it. That's a pretty important CC. Anyway, so killing or assisting jungle monsters or enemy gods gives you stacks, 50 stacks, so you get 10 pen. Wranglers, without the cooldown reduction and without the movement speed, and actually slower to stack up from killing gods, but you can get the stack up from killing jungle monsters, and that's going to be very fast. These are things that will come online. Let's see, 10 minutes in? I'm going to guess. Maybe 5 minutes in, somewhere between the two. So mid-game they're going to come online, I guess. Guardian's Blessing, 100 health, 5 protections, Shit. 7 HP and 7 mana restored per lane when unit assisted. A wave is 7 minions. I think it's like 3 archers, 1 brute, and 2 smaller physical ones. So that's not a whole lot, to be honest. I mean, you start off with, what, like 800 health? As a guardian? So you're healing... The mana is a massive amount of mana. Because you start off with only like 200 mana, and that's like a third of it. So yeah, 7 times 6 is 42. It's not even that. Shit. A bit under a quarter, but it's a tiny amount of HP. It's tiny. Damn. Bonus 3 gold for 5. That was the thing I wanted to talk about. So, that's bonus 3 gold per 5 seconds. And it's... I think it's 3 gold per second is the spooling in Conquest. Because we're talking about Conquest here. So I'm not sure how significant that increase is, but... oh yeah, and plus 3 gold per lane assistant. I'm assuming that's the same as it is for Watcher's Gift. I'm just going to assume that. So, if we're looking at Conquest here, looking at like Traveller's Shoes, how many people would you have to trigger it on every 90 seconds in order to have as much as 3 gold per 5 seconds? So, it's 30 gold instead of 3, so it's go down to 2. You'd have to trigger Travelers on 2 people every 90 seconds. In order to get more gold than Guardian's Blessing does. I'm not sure how easy that is to do in Conquest. Probably not very easy. But outside of Conquest, not that you get started as much on outside of Conquest, Guardian's Blessing is now terrible. It's terrible. That's all I can say. There's no more Gold Rush start. I'm actually gonna have to build to have a good early games to get kills instead of just not giving a shit, because I'd give like an extra 3,000 gold from all of my Gold Rush items, my Watcher's Gift, Lonos, and Travellers. Oh, Delaria. Not only Travellers, I'm talking about Guardians here. Damn. That's... Anyway, moving on. Hunter's Blessing. This thing's fucking broken. And let me tell you why. Okay, plus 15 basic attack damage. So, Bluestone originally has 10 power on it? I want to say. It's got fucking MP5 on it. Why has it got fucking MP5 on it? It's for hunters. Why? Like, I know they use abilities too, but... Anyway, so plus 15 basic attack damage is a fucking lot, okay? Since your basic attack damage is gonna be like 45 at level 1, I don't know, something like that. Maybe less than that. But that's a massive increase on your basic attack damage. Massive. MP5 for some fucking reason. Killing or assisting, that's a weird thing to put in there. Lamians or gods. Wait, does some... So that thing stacks on assists, but you don't get their health and mana restoration. Okay. Minions are worth 1 stack, gods are worth 5 stacks, of course. 75 stacks. So this is going to take a little bit longer to come online. Potentially. It evolves, getting 15% attack speed, and an additional 15 bonus basic attack damage. Okay, let me just do a little bit of a comparison here. Kin Size has 50% attack speed, 40 power, and does, well, as it is now, 4% of the target's health per hit, but the change means it's going to have a base of 3% and then go up to potentially 5% on tanks. So, as you be going up against another squishy, they've got about 1900 health, let's say. And you hit them for an additional 3% of that for each hit. Yeah, it has 57 damage per hit. So, the bonus damage on this is half a kins on squishies. Excluding the power. That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot. If Kins had a tier 2 version that had its passive on it, that's sort of Hunter's Blessing when it's stacked. That's quite kind of insane. Okay, so plus 30 bonus ability damage. I don't think that's a lot. Especially on gods that don't hit many abilities. I'm assuming that the bonus damage only applies once on abilities that have tick damage on them. So most of the newest, all of the newest damaging abilities, and like Poseidon's 3, I'm assuming it's only going to trigger once on those, like Bluestone does. The MP5 per mana missing is, of course, strong, but we already knew that. Honestly, that bonus ability damage is going to be more powerful on non-magical characters. I don't know. I think it's more damage than the Illside items would give from it, though, because Illside items give like 20 magical power, which would translate to maybe 15 damage to an ability. At full stacks, it gives 10% cooldown reduction. So, it's pretty much... You know what it is? You know what it is? It's Bluestone and Sands of Time. It's Bluestone and Sands of Time together. That's what it is. Because it's got the bonus ability damage that Bluestone would give. Because it's the same amount of damage, it's 30 damage, except it's not over time. You don't get burst power from it, but you do get the mana regeneration and cooldown reduction that Sands of Time gave. Okay, Warrior's version. 50 health, 3 reduction of damage taken. So, I think that's actually better than the 5 protections from Guardians. I don't know, it's better in situations. Because protections are a percentage mitigation based on an equation. Is 100 over 100 plus the protections. That's the multiplier. I don't know. In situations where you're getting hit by a lot of less damaging abilities, this is probably gives you more more tankiness. Guardian's Blessing, but Guardian's Blessing might give you more tankiness because it has an extra 50 health, which is significant. There's double. And protections. I'm not sure. This is an interesting passive though. Kind of reminds me of Glad Shield, which gives you like 1.5% of your max health. How much is that early on? They got like 800 times that. Actually, this is actually better. The healing from this is better than Gladiator's Shield. It's gonna get nerfed! Oh, and this is a tanky item. This is just the tankiest item. It's got 10 protections on it when it's fully stacked. It's got a slightly worse version of Mark of the Vanguard on it. It's got Glad Shield on it. Jesus. That's gonna get nerfed, probably. Right, the Out of Conquest Blessings. There's 3 of them. It's basically Joust Blessings. They basically just mean this for Joust. Because, you know they're only gonna care about those too, because if you buy starter items in Duel, they must. So it's just, there are other 2 rank modes, Conquest and Joust. Because like, Siege has 4 gods, and all the other ones have 5. Jouster's the only one with 3 that's not... That's... Yeah. Out of conquest mode. Anyway, so... 20 physical power, but only 25 magical power. I don't think that quite works. I don't think that's how maths works. Dealing damage, 100 damage, gives you a stacks. Every 100 damage you deal gives you a stack, or 5 stacks, or 3 stacks, sorry, for enemy gods. At 50 stacks, you get 10 pen. It's alright. 100 health and 10 protections. Mitigating damage gives you a stack for every 50, regardless of where the damage came from. At 50 stacks, you gain an additional 100 health and 100 mana. This is kind of terrible. 200 health and 10 protections. After stacking it. It's just not very good. Especially since there's no extra effects on it. It's just raw stats. I mean, okay, it's cheap. So, tier 1 of like Mantle of Discord or Hide of the Urchin or one of those items gives you 10 protections, and it's 650 gold, I think. It used to be 700, but now it's 650. I think I'm right there. So it's got 200 health over that. So it has the protections of a tier 1 item and the health of a tier 2 item. I just don't think it's very good. Like, starter items are generally like a bit better than a tier 2 item, and I was supposed to be particularly good in the early game, whereas this has got general stats which are good for how cheap it is. Don't get me wrong, but as just general stats, they're terrible. This was not so bad because 10 pen is a lot of pen to get for an item. Like, you have to go for tier 3 item to get pen at all, really. And that makes it immediately a lot more worth. But it's got the power of a tier 1 item. So this one has the power of a tier 1 item and the pen of a tier 3 item. And this one has the protections of a tier 1 item and the health of a tier 2 item. This one's just a strictly worse thing than that. If you look at it that way, I guess. To be fair, those are all items that have extra effects. And I'm looking at physical items there, because tier 3 magical items, like Spirit of Desolation has 20 pen, Spirit of the Magus has 15 pen, plus a lot more extra pen. These are in general just pretty bad. This, however, is pretty good. 10 MP5 and 10% cooldown reduction, and then 10% movement speed when it's stacked. From damaging or healing gods. I'm assuming that might... Actually, damaging enemies or healing gods. So that includes minions, I guess? Each time an enemy is damaged, each ability can only trigger up to 3 stacks. So it can be pretty easy to stack this thing up pretty quickly on Aphrodite. Or probably like Hell, like any god that can spam abilities out, or any god that has tick damage abilities. Guiwis can probably stack it up pretty quickly. I don't know. But it's got the movement speed of a tier 2 item, the cooldown reduction of tier 3 items. Sorry. It's got the cooldown reduction of... Well, you have to go to a tier 3 item to get cooldown reduction. This thing has the utility stats of a tier 3 item. It's a utility item. This is the best blessing, I have to say. It's not going to give you extra damage, and it's not going to make you any tankier, but it gives you better stats in its class than the other two do in their classes. Okay, let's move on. Tahuti is too much of a staple, it gives too much power, it pretty much does double to power when you buy it, so we've removed its just straight up extra power and made it just for when your target's below 50% health. But we've also decreased the cost down to 3k and increased the power on it, so it's basically just going to be bought on everyone anyway. Possibly. I'm not sure it will. 150 is a lot of power, and it still has a lot of power against targets below 50% health, which is kind of an awkward thing to work out. But it's an insane amount of damage on the low health targets. That's just going to be an instant kill on those. But it's missing any utility stats apart from the MP5 on it, which is a lot. Doomwall's got new art. When did that happen? I think that's new. I don't know. So Doom Orb is now possibly one of the worst items in the game. I'm not quite sure. It's now 1700 gold, which is about as cheap as you can get for a tier 2 item. A tier 2 item that's the last item of the chain free, I mean. But it's just the same price as all the other cheapest ones, like Dance Shield, Dynasty Plate Helm. Killing or assisting a minion gives you a stack of Doom, granting you 1% movement speed and 3 power per stack. Lasts 15 seconds and stacks up to 5 times. So, yeah. You kill a wave, and you get 5% movement speed and 15 power. I don't know what the base power on it is. It's got quite a lot of MP5. But 5% movement speed is shite. I'd rather it be a more expensive item and actually give reasonable stats, like 15 power. 15 power. That's nothing. You get more. To put this in perspective, I guess. Ichaival. Yes, that is how it's pronounced. It's not Ichival. It's Ichaival. Gives you 10 power for each basic you hit. It has 10 pen on it. It has 30% attack speed on it. And it reduces your enemy's power. It's one of the best boxing items in the game for its price. Even though it got nerfed. Actually, does it still give 10 power to you? I think it might be 7 now. Anyway, it has to be reduced down to like 3 power per hit to be as bad as this. 30% attack speed is a lot of attack speed. The only other items that have that much attack speed are tier 3 items. I think we're 25%. Fuck, I am forgetting what this item's stats are, because I never buy it, because it's just shit now. Because they nerfed it into the ground. But at its prime, when everyone was buying it, Ichaival gave an ADC 30 power, 30% attack speed, 10 pen, and reduced an enemy ADC by 30 power. I mean, if both ADCs had it, it was just an even trade. Because they both lose and gain 30 power. But it's still 30% attack speed and 10 pen. That's pretty decent stats for 1700 gold. This gives you 15 power on a mage. That's an extra fucking 10 damage. 10 damage on an ability. Fucking mage starter item does more damage than that. This item is terrible. Telkine's Ring is back to being an ADC item for magicals. You get attack speed on it, which is basically the only reason why you buy it. And your basic attacks now deal bonus damage equal to 10 plus 5% of your magical power. Now, the old version of Telkine's, I think, gave you 30 extra damage per hit. So I guess that you're expecting to have maybe as much as 800. Let's be generous, say 800 power times 5% plus a 10, 50 power. So it's a slightly better version of what it used to be. And it's been increased back up to fucking 2800 gold. 2,800. Watch out! They will hit hard with their basic attacks because of its new magical power scaling component. It's gonna give you what, like an extra 20% damage? on a 2,800 gold item. One of the more expensive items in the game. How much power do they have on it? Like 80, maybe? If it's 80, it's pretty good. If it's like 60 on a tier 3 item, it costs 2,800 gold. No, it's terrible. Why did you jack the price up? Like, all the ADCs, all the magical ADCs that are actually playable and are actually magical ADCs already gain a lot more scaling. Unless this has a reasonable amount of power on it, it would genuinely be better to go on like a flat power item. Maybe with some extra pen, like I don't know, Spear of Desolation, one of the most bought items in the game, or maybe some lifesteal, so they can maybe box an ADC a bit, like Bancroft's Talon, still the highest power granting item that isn't Tahuti. Like when its passive is fully activated, it does more power than any of the stacking items. Any of them. More power than Warlock Sash, more power than Book of Death. Yeah. So basically, the passive on it is terrible. If it's actually got some reasonable power on it, then the base stats are alright, but I would give it more attack speed, because there aren't enough attack speed items for magical ADCs. Okay, Demonic Grip has 10 more power on it. Moving on. Book of the Dead is getting a new passive and it's moved to the book tree, so no longer is it a magical lifesteal item. But don't worry, they're replacing it with a better one. 2,600 power. Sorry. That would be insane. It costs 200 gold less. It has 200 mana in place of its 20% lifesteal. And you get... It's a Bulwark of Hope. It's Bulwark of Hope on mages. But it's based on your current mana. So, yeah. Bulwark of Hope is like 200 point health shield or something like that. This thing, if you're at max mana for some reason, but that's never going to happen. It's going to be like... Yeah, this thing goes about as much of a health shield as Bulwark of Hope on a magical item with 100 power. It costs 2,600 gold. It's probably the best survivability item that a mage can get. It gives more power than Ethereal Staff and Gem of Iso. Obviously, Warlock Sash is still going to have more health and more power, but the health shield comes back every 90 seconds. It lasts for 6 seconds though, so I don't know. It's debatable, but it's a decent, kind of interesting item for survivability. Soul Gem, the tier 3 replacement item for what Soulstone was, as replacing Book of the Dead in the Lifesteal tree. 65 power. I know, doesn't sound that much, but it only costs 2,300 gold, so it's pretty good already. 150 health for some reason. I don't know why. Lifesteal and health do not go well together. You want protection and health, if anything, because it's a lower percentage of your health when you have more health. Because it's infinite. Anyway, 10% cooldown reduction for some reason. 12% lifesteal, which is the same amount Polynomical has. And here's the passive on it. Every time you hit an enemy with an ability or basic attack, you gain a stack. At 5 stacks, your next ability will burst damage equal to 25% of your magical power. 5 stacks. This applies on tick damage too. And will heal yourself and allies within 30 units of you for 25% of your power. Yeah. Sounds broken to me. Don't know about you. Typhon's Fang. Actually, I think this is the item that's supposed to replace... Book of the Dead. I don't know. Okay, 100 power, 200 mana. So those are the base stats on Book of the Dead. Plus 50% magical lifesteal! Which probably is the highest base lifesteal on an item. But now, here's the thing. Your magical lifesteal from items is increased by 50%. So the magical lifesteal on this item is actually 22.5%. Magical lifesteal again from Bancroft is increased by like 10% or something. Which every mage gets. So you're really getting like an extra 30% lifesteal. This and Bancroft's Talon is probably going to cap your lifesteal. Probably overcap it if you have more stacks of Bancrofts activated. And if you want even more healing, add in Soul Gem. If you want a health shield as well for some reason, add in Book of the Dead. Mages are going to be kind of hard to kill the next season. I just got a private message on Discord from... Okay. Your magical... Okay. Your magical power is increased by 100%, the 100% amount of magical lifesteal you have. So the actual number? So potentially an extra 65 power if you're capped on it. So this item plus Bancroft's Talon. Yeah. Everyone's going to be buying that. Everyone. Literally everyone. Anti-tank items are getting nerfed and buffed at the same time. Instead of getting a 33% pen on the two of them, you get 20% pen. Now here's the weird part. So it's different for the two of them. Both of them start off at 20% pen. Okay. If the target has over 40 magic protections, it scales up to ignore a larger percent of the protections. So you get more pen, more protections they have. This caps at 45% pen at 175 or more magical protections. That's a lot of pen! That's quite a lot of pen. If I just say so myself. That's a lot of pen. If the target has over 65 physical protections, this effect scales up scales up to 40%. I guess they didn't want it to be too overpowered against tanks. But tanks are going to die a lot easier. Ethereal Staff now only does 3% instead of 5% at squishies, and goes up as they have over 2,000 health. It scales up to 10% of their health on the 2,750 HP targets. So, yeah. Annoying. Kin Size only does 3% of the target's maximum health. Unless they also have over 2,000 health, the same thing as the Ethereal Staff, where he goes up to 5% of their maximum health. That's fun. Kins is now going to do insane damage to tanks. Kali is going to destroy tanks even faster than she used to. So will Nemesis. Thankfully, no one buys Ethereal Staff. Probably less people are going to buy Obsidian Shard unless it's a particularly tanky team. But yeah, what this really means is against like any sort of intelligent team, trying to go for like an all-tank team, or a team that has like an ADC and a mage, is going to be even more impossible than it was before. Before it was just difficult, now it's just straight up impossible. Okay, Boots and Shoes. You used to be able to buy items outright, and now you can't. You have to buy tier 2 or weight and base. Boots has gone up to 500 gold. That's going to affect some starting build, particularly solo lane. Warrior Tabi now costs 1600 as a whole, and Ninja Tabi now costs 1550. Lariat boots and Traveler's shoes have been redesigned. Instead of getting the insane amount of free gold that you used to get just for poking gods, you get 25% base movement speed and Swift Wing. It's Swift Wing's passive. So you've got an extra 15 MP5 as well. So it's no longer an out-of-combat mobility thing for rotating with. Not that anyone use it for that anyway. People use it for the extra gold. I know I did. Allows players in other modes to go fast. Lol. This might actually be a must-buy on gods like Mercury, because you get power from that. I don't know. I don't think an extra 7% movement speed translates to more than 20 power. It shouldn't do. That would be ridiculous. You might buy it in solo lane. You might be able to get back to the lane a bit faster, but the power spike of Warrior Tabi is just too good. It's not going to be bought. It's useless now. Before, it was a bit of a niche item, giving you some out-of-combat movement speed for some strategic play and all that, but now it's just awful. All stacking items now evolve. How many fucking changes do we have to go through? Jesus. The changes to the magical boots are the same, pretty much. Chronos Pendant, slight increase in gold, noticeable increase in power, Spirit Distillation, with its old art for some reason, more power, less pen, so a bit less of a must-buy now. I don't know, still probably get bought a lot. Divine Ruin, cheaper, more pen. Divine Ruin, Spirit Distillation has cooldown reduction. You're more inclined to buy Divine Ruin now, because it has an extra 5 pen, and Spirit Distillation doesn't have as much. Spear of the Magus, whatever. 15 power, 150 more gold. Okay, whatever. Spell Focus has 15% pen on it now. Soul Reliquary is now the spellbook tree, because Soul Reliquary was too interesting of a name. No, because get these shitty looking new card arts on item art on them for books. Spellbooks. But that doesn't still have a change at all. Soul Weaver now has 120 power on it. For some reason. That's because Tahuti's been changed. Polynomicon has had the icon changed from a nice bright green thing that was colourful to a dull grey thing that looks boring. Yeah. And now it's in the book tree, along with Soul Reaver. Enchanted Trinket has health instead of mana on it. That's retarded. And so does Pythagorean's Peace. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't. I don't like it. Bancroft's Talon has 150 mana on it. It's changed to the staff tree. Does this mean there's actually lifesteal items outside of the trinket tree now? I think that does, because Pythagoras is still on there. Polynomial has moved to the book tree, and Bancroft's Talon has moved to the staff tree for some weird reason. I have no idea why. Talon Trinket now doesn't go into Bancroft's Talon. That actually made sense. These are weird changes. I don't know why. Don't know why they're doing this. I also don't know why all their new art looks so oversimplified and bland. That's how to describe it, as far as I'm concerned. They don't have any detail on them. Or at least it doesn't look like they have much detail on them. Compared to what they looked like before. And the colouring is a lot more bland. Like, Uratabi are like two slightly different shades of orange now. Ugh, I don't want to get into a rant about that right now. Uncommon Sash now had a... So, sashes are now staffs. And Bancroft's Talon is on the staff tree, instead of the Talon tree, despite not having its art or name changed at all. Because it makes perfect sense for a golden staff to upgrade into a Talon. Okay. Warlock Sash now has less base health, more magical power, so changes all the other ones, and gives you more health per stack. Presumably, yeah, it adds up to being the same amount of health once it's finished stacking in total. Crusher has a different passive again, because they just never can get it in a good place. It's either a gimmicky split pushing item, or it's just a strictly inferior to cooldown items. And now it has Bluestone's effect on it. Except instead of just being 30 damage, it's got 15% of your physical power on it too. Which is as much extra damage as is on Hydra's Lament. Which is interesting. So now you have the choice between doing extra damage on auto attack hits after casting abilities, while getting health, MP5 and cooldown reduction, or getting extra damage on your abilities. People are going to buy Hydra's Lament over this. Still, Hydra's Lament is cheaper. Still. Transcendence now has 10% cooldown reduction on it, because we want stacking items to be the most broken items in the game, but we can never get it right. Because it's always just a raw stat thing. Which one gives you the more damage? Oh. Devourer's Gauntlets does? And it's cheaper too? Oh, buy that then. Oh hey, it gives lifesteal too. More boxing. Transcendence is like only really good on ADCs that want to do ability damage. They're worthless on junglers, as far as I'm concerned, because they have no pen. Same thing for warriors, but since they have no protections either. So, yeah, just ADCs. That's it. So, Ulla gets Transcendence. Ulla gets 10% cooldown reduction. Congratulations, Hi-Rez, you just buffed Ulla again. After buffing him to being tier 1, you just gave him another buff. He didn't even have a buff in the first place. He was in a perfectly good spot. Void Shield is still shit. Less power, slightly more protections, and a bit of health on it, but it still costs 2,700 gold. It's not good. It's not good. Make it cheaper. Currently, it's the physical equivalent of Voidstone, except it costs 650 more gold and provides 20 less protections. And that's after this buff. Yeah. Atlantis Bow is still shit. It doesn't matter how long it lasts, having a movement speed buff is just not very good. People was buying Fatalis all the time because it gave high DPS, because it had pen on it, and it gave you the juking ability, which only really matters in 1v1s. In team fights, you rely on your support and your warrior, your for your solo laner to soak up damage and keep your enemies in a spot where you can hit them while preventing you from getting hit. You don't care that much about moving around quickly. You care about moving around quickly when you want to rotate, and this does nothing for that. And besides all that, there's Wind Demon. I'm pretty sure Wind Demon gives more movement speed than Atlanta's bow does. And it's a crit item that has high DPS on it. That costs like 150 gold more. Don't buy this item. Wind Demon's just better. It's just better. Okay, Blackthorn Hammer is getting another change, another new passive. You get to get cooldown reduction, or 50 MP5. 50? Are you mad? $50 MP5 from one item, just because you're under 50% mana. The raw stats in this item are average, if I remember. They're not particularly good, but they're not exactly awful, like Void Shield. But that's too much MP5. Solo laners are going to buy that. They have to. It's too much MP5. It's too much sustain. That's an insane amount of sustain. With 50 MP5, warriors are going to be set in solo lane constantly on half mana. They won't even care about getting mana buff, because the passive on this is just better than mana buff. It's got 10% cooldown reduction, and an insane amount of MP5. Okay. Ikaival's got a slight buff, so now it has Silver Branch's effect on it as well. And Silver Branch is now an attack speed leech. And it's already an attack speed item. So when it's fully stacked, it'll give you 45% attack speed and reduce your enemy's attack speed by 15%. Unless it also has Silver Branch Bow, but no one will, because it's going to be bad. I think it is. A DCS is not much more expensive, and it gives a reliable 40% instead of not less reliable 45% attack speed, and it has extra damage from its passive. Mikhail doesn't really have anything to equate it to, other aside from like Executioner, high attack speed item, protection reduction, which they still haven't nerfed. The jump in DPS from buying it is just dumb. Deathbringer. I misread it when I first read this. So they reduced the cost. They increased it to 35% crit chance. I'm pretty sure that's how much crit chance Rage gives after it's fully stacked. Are they just going to remove that from the game then? And they've given a reasonable reduce to the extra damage. This is going to be like a staple of any build that wants to build crit, even more so than it already is. Either the Urchin now has a horribly bland looking new art. Instead of giving the most protections in the game, it now has a health shield that regenerates of 200 at level 20. So, I guess regenerating Bulwark of Hope. That regenerates after 30 seconds. So, it's a Bulwark of Shields. It's a Bulwark of Shield that you don't have to be below 30% of your health, or whatever it is, to trigger, and regenerates faster than Bulwark of Hope's shield does. It's still a very strong item. This is not, however. 50 magical protection, 300 health. That 300 health, I don't know why they have so much health on it. Like, I made a statement not that long ago. I say not that long ago, it was like a year ago or something, saying that they didn't want people to be able to build one item and get a lot of protection and a lot of health. and yet they keep on releasing items that have a lot of protection and a lot of health. I mean, sure, it's not as much protection as, like, I don't know, what has higher than a me, and that's got 80 protections on it, and no health. But this has... and, it doesn't give as much health as Son of Gaia, which is a 400 health. But it still gives you more effective health than either of those items does. Obviously it's magical, not physical. But they should either nerf the health or nerf the protection on this, because the raw stats on this, especially since it's such a cheap item. Like, Mystical Mail has, I think, 30 physical protections and 300 health, and that costs 2,700 gold, because it has its 40 damage per second passive on it. And this is more protections than that for cheaper. Too bad the passive on it's terrible. Getting a killer assist on enemies gives movement speed and attack speed. And MP5. So that's at the same time. So you get 10% movement speed, that's solid. 10% attack speed, and 50 MP5 at max stacks, and it lasts for 6 seconds. As kills or assists on enemies. So you kill a minion wave, that's 6 minions, you get 6% movement speed, 6% attack speed, and 30 MP5. That's sort of what you could expect to get from it. The passive on it is worse than Kasari. And Kasari costs about the same amount. But the 300 health, it's... the raw stats are too good to not buy it, I reckon. Even if the passive is kind of terrible. Heartwood has slightly more health, and slightly more protections on it, whatever. They did the same thing with Sov. Hunter's Garb has been changed. Instead of getting 15% damage mitigation, I think it was... they might have left it at 20, I think they did. When you take damage when there's 3 or more gods within 55 units, so, like, just nearby. Instead it's just 5% mitigation indefinitely, so permanently 5% mitigation when there's 3 or more enemy gods nearby. If you don't have a lot of protections or health, this item's not particularly good, unless the enemy has a lot of pen, because pen doesn't affect straight up mitigation buffs. If you already have a lot of protections, the 5% damage mitigation is probably going to be more than whatever you get from your protections. Gauntlet of Thebes is now the single or tankiest item in the game, in terms of protections. Hide of the Urchin is probably still the single tankiest item, but it costs 2,400 now, so still pretty cheap. It only has 200 health on it, and no protections. But it stacks up to 50 times for assists on lane minions to give 50 protections, and once it does, it gives an additional 20 protections to you and allies. So 70 protections on a 2,400 gold item. I reckon this is going to get bossed quite a lot. It's kind of very good. A Spectral Armor has less protections on it now, and instead of having that retarded fear on it, that was the only reason people bought it, because base stats were okay. Instead, crits deal 50% bonus damage instead of 100, which is like maybe a 20%, 15-20% damage mitigation for auto attacks. It's probably a better counter than Hider than a Mian, because reflecting 20% doesn't matter that much because of lifesteal, but not taking that much. Like, I don't know, if you're going up it, if they're trying to build to kill you, they're going to get like Kins and Titans instead of crit items. So this is worthless. You have to kind of buy this after they're already committed to being a crit item. Like after they've already bought a Deathbringer pretty much, because that's the most expensive one they're going to get. Maybe Windham, and Windham's not that far off. Oracle now only costs 300 gold. I say it's pretty much probably a must-buy on supports, because you don't care that much about pots. Maybe not so much on junglers, and probably not at all on the other roles, but I don't know, if you're getting wards early and stop buying pots early, you might want to get out on jungler, but I'd probably get that pretty early on support. Aegis now only has 1.5 seconds of immunity, and has a 180 second cooldown instead of 160. That's a reasonable nerf. Cursed Ankh. Now no longer has the mana cost thing. Now applies a different curse effect. If you are healed while this effect is by an ability while this effect is active, you take 20% more damage from all sources. It's still not very good. It gives so much healing reduction that you're just not going to use your healing abilities. So you're just not going to use. It's not good. Bad effect, bad. Hand of the Gods has been removed from the game. It was just never good enough, was it? It was supposed to have out junglers with bad clear, but whenever it was strong enough to do that, Guardians got it. To steal things, because they can just walk in. Its meta use was deemed overwhelmingly unfun. What? Running in as a Guardian to try and just steal a jungle objective isn't fun? It sounds pretty fun to me. Gives Guardians more stuff to do, or supports more stuff to do. That's always a good thing. Thorns. If you are dealt 150 times your level in damage while the effect is active, Shield of Thorns ends early. So... Wait. This is how much damage you take, and how much damage it inflicts, which is often more when you're a tank. That's why it's good. So, when you're at level 20, it has to do more than all of your health in order to end the active early. Like, you don't buy at early levels, because you're not tanky enough yet. So maybe, okay, at level 12, it'll end if you get 1800 damage. So when you're about to die, when you've got like 300 health left, it'll end early. Okay. It normally ends before I get to that point anyway. It's nothing. That's nothing. Now all mages have what? Design choice to withhold magic protection scaling from DPS mages. Oh, that's a big change. As we looked at the mages as a class and adjusted their items heavily, now became the best time to adjust this. This allows mages to better fight against guardians. It's guardians? Huh. Without requiring any specific itemizations. It will also help traditional DPS mages and hybrid mages to be more consistent in their base stats, which will match their consistency optimization. Now all mages have magic protection scaling to 0.9 per level. Before they used to start at 30 and end at 30. So now they're going to start at 30 and end at 48. That doesn't sound like a massive difference, but with 30 protections, you'd mitigate 23% of damage, but with 48, you'd mitigate 32.5. That's an extra like 11% of damage mitigation before penetration. And it also means that Guardians can't build 2 items, Shoes of the Magi and Voidstone, and deal true damage to mages. They used to be able to do that because they only had 30 protections, so 20 pen plus 10 pen is 30. But now they have to build 50, pretty much. 50 protections in order to deal optimal damage to mages, and to non-mages as well. But before, Guardians could just destroy mages if they built damage, because they had no magical protections, really. 30 is nothing. I mean, now they actually have the same sort of protections as hunters. This is a very interesting balanced choice. Alright, so Acne has slightly higher base movement speed. Okay. AMC has been overperforming. Apparently he started off as being completely unviable in this season, and through changes that did not directly affect him, he ended up being tier 0 by the end of the season. What? Oh. Yeah. Difficult god to balance, honestly. So the attack speed and movement speed buff from his high, which has been reduced, the former significantly, 20% at max rank, and the latter not so much, 5% at all ranks. 50% attack speed buff was always an insane thing. Like, people have, there are gods that have steroids that don't buff us that much, and Hive can be around permanently, pretty much. 50, I don't see how that was ever considered a good idea. This is more than boots at max level. A slight nerf, but also a tweak. Ah, okay. So, Ao Kuang's heal is now happening at a different point in the animation. Instead of as soon as he starts the ult to execute, it's now once he's actually executed the target. Okay. Everybody's has slightly higher base movement speed now. Okay. Colin has slightly lower base HP 5 and 10 seconds longer when his ults cooldown? Okay. I don't see why that's a big difference. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. The CC immunity, AoE CC, triggering his passive. Alright, that's fair enough. But the whole design of him, as far as I could tell, was that you use the rest of his kit and the auto attacks to get him up to near the turning point of his passive, and then use his ult and trigger his passive, and then go on a rampage. But apparently they don't want that for some reason. I don't understand why. If you go on, if his passive procs before his ult's off cooldown, then he's just missing out on like 400 damage in AoE with the CC attached. Okay. Cursed Strength. Fafnir has proven himself to be a strong guardian. Okay, whatever. Yeah, his lockdown is kind of annoying when he just leaps on someone, he gets a long stun, misses one, it's an even longer stun, and by that point he's just 100 to 0 at them if he's building any sort of damage. So, yeah, slightly reduce, actually a significant reduce to the stun duration of his hammer. But no reduce to the slow. That slow was always annoying. But I don't think that happens in his dragon form, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. Habwa has higher movement speed? You kidding? Why? He has his fucking carpet. It gives him like 80% movement speed. It's ridiculous. It's not even a long cooldown or anything. If he wants to get somewhere, he puts his carpet down. If he wants to be juking things, he puts his carpet down. You just made that carpet even more viable. I don't see why that's a good change. Hell has an increased base movement speed. So now she'll be flying around even faster. Despite used to be being one of the slowest gods in the game with base, and then being one of the fastest with the build and the abilities. Specifically the 3. But the fact that you built Rod of Asclepius, and I often built other ones as well, but yeah, even faster now. Kepri has also got an increased base movement speed. Kuzenbo is slightly tankier now, by 5 per level in health, so 100 points extra at level 20. That's pretty significant, I guess. Loki is getting a buff to his decoy. I see. So Loki's decoy doesn't proc item effects because it's a pet, not ability damage? That's a complex ruling. Okay. So now he's better at just dropping his 2 on a lane and just clearing it instantly, I guess, by a little bit. So shorter cooldown's probably a bigger deal than the slight increase of damage. It's what, a 15-point increase at all levels? Yeah, it's not massive. Nike has been one of the most winning gods in the game. That's not particularly good English, and I haven't seen any evidence to show this. Yeah, the one is a bit annoying. Slight nerf of the damage by 20 at max level, but nothing at the first level into the ability. But knockback immune. To be honest, knockbacks are so accessible now. Pretty much all channel abilities should be knockback immune, otherwise just cancel them immediately with very accessible CC. Which was always annoying. Increased base movement speed. Are they just increasing it to like almost all of the mages that had... Is 350 base movement speed no longer a thing now? Is this what's happening? Okay. Raijin's getting nerfed. His ult has a longer cooldown. His Raiju's getting a big damage nerf. That's a big damage nerf. From 15 to 55 base damage to 9 to 33 base damage, and from 13% to 8% scaling. That's like 2/3. The damage has been reduced to 2/3 of what it was. Maybe more like 3/5. Wow. His one's also getting nerfed. The base damage getting reduced by 5 at all ranks per shot. Okay. Ratatoska is getting nerfed? Oh, it's preemptive enough. I see. Increasing the mana cost of his main CC and the cooldown of his only mobility. Ability that's not his ult. Alright, that's an interesting change, I guess. Let's see why they did it. Nerfing his ult, which is what they're talking about the problem being, would be making him almost unplayable, I guess. Since he relies on so much as his main engage. It's like Thor. Not Thanatos. Thanatos is different. Thanatos is special. Raven has been a top warrior jungler in Season 4 because of strong clear and pressure. Okay. Base health reduced by 20. Okay. Oh, they've nerfed the damage mitigation by 10%. So now it's going to mitigate jack shit at rank 1, and still quite a lot at max rank. Didn't really feel that much. It's a casual level. I guess casual players don't know how to make good use of his ult. Increase the base health per level of Scylla from 68 to 75. With just no explanation, they're just throwing that in. Okay. Thoth has been buffed by an increase of 5 base damage at all ranks on his 1. Tyr has scaling on his heal again. Tyr has scaling on his heal again. Let's see there. 40, that's Warriors have AI plus Frostbound, plus Shifters, plus Stone Cutting, plus Executioner, I guess. And an extra 135 on the heal, potentially, with double tap was build, and the end of the game when you're healing off a wave. Of course, his heal was never a big deal to double tap. It was his damage that he was worried about. That's an interesting change. And Ymir is getting a slight mobility buff again. I don't know what's up with all these mobility buffs. Did they explain it right at the top here? It's just... Right. Well, that's everything, I guess. So... yeah. I don't... aside from... yeah, Tyr and Thoth are the only ones that have been... oh, Loki as well. Everyone's going to be happy about that. Most of it's just been nerfs. It's a very interesting patch, to be honest. So... ADCs are still broken against tanks. That's never going to change. Because ADCs must always be the top picks for duel that aren't Kali and Habois. Just because they can one-shot. It's going to be a slow start next season. Big changes to the way you start the game, with the costs of boots changing, and the starter items changing into these blessings. And a fairly big change to the map. It's probably worth pulling up an image of what the map looks like now. There's no longer a wall between the Titan and the Phoenixes. It's no longer possible to walk between those two Phoenixes. You have to go back into the jungle in order to walk between the Phoenixes now, unless you want to go underneath them. Okay. Mid-tower has swapped size in order to be symmetrical. Interesting. The speed camp is now further back. So it's kind of a problem with junglers just stealing each other's speeds because it was easier. That actually has to contest the lanes buffs, because mid takes it near the start, and then the ADC picks it up. This generally the support picks it up, and this is for the solo lane, pretty much without exception. It's going to be a lot harder to accidentally aggro the Gold Fury when you're trying to take out the oracles, which is a good thing, I think. It'll be interesting to see how the Wind Demon that's going to be a thing, how the Swift Wing monster instead of the Portal Demon is going to affect the game. Honestly, the weirdest thing with this, aside from what it's all about the wider map, would be the jungle routes, because now there's a lot more terrain in the jungles. Oh, that's interesting. Duo Lane now has 4 gang spots instead of 3, like Solo Lane does. Well, did, and still does. Can't imagine it makes much difference. He's still going to be ganking out here, so they can't back off much. Oh, the tower is a bit further back from the terrain now. Interesting. The main thing I can see is it's harder for the ADC to go and clear red now, which I guess means Mid's going to pick it up more to avoid ADC from missing out on lane farm. It's probably just going to go and clear purple buff and vote for the support now. To be honest, I can't really say much more about the changes until they've tried them out in game. Like, obviously there's going to be some different jungle routes, but because there's going to be routes where you can juke around these, or hide behind them, I guess. And there's walls there. I don't know how our vision works around those walls. Chases through the jungle are going to be a bit more interesting though, because now there's a lot more routes to go. Instead of having, like, not a lot more. A few more with a bit more things to go around and hide around. Anyway, that's everything now. That's the map. Gone through all the changes. ADCs are still broken. Tank teams can't work anymore. At all. Attack meta is going to be difficult to happen now with their changes. Don't know how good that is. But hopefully, the fact that it's nerfed for most damage means that ADCs especially are less likely to pick up things like Kin's size over crit items and basic power and attack speed items in a regular team comp that doesn't have a lot of tankiness. So I guess that's a good thing for tanks, really. Unless you're in a particularly tanky team, once this season gets going, people are going to build less anti-tank items. Unless the tank becomes a problem. But, I'm actually looking forward to this now. When I saw there's buffs against tanks to the anti-tank items, I was getting worried that tanks were getting just a hard hit like that, but no, I think it's fine.